In part 1 of my do-it-yourself duct cleaning series, I removed dust and debris from this HVAC ductwork with a homemade sweeping tool and a do-it-yourself duct vacuum. The electric leaf blower I originally used only manages about 400 CFM of airflow, but this air mover is rated for about 2500 CFM, or cubic feet per minute. When placed inside a modified box like so, it can make a pretty effective duct vacuum. I just cut some openings for the inlet and outlet and then attached some flexible ducting. A screen or a filter can be installed near the inlet. A separate filter box like this one is probably what I'll be using to help remove dust and debris from the airstream before it reaches the blower. The filter barrel I used originally worked okay for removing debris, but not dust. The leaf blower is designed to handle some light debris, like leaves, so I wasn't too concerned about it being damaged. The flexible foil duct was inserted through its respective opening in the lid until it hangs down the barrel about halfway. The other end of this foil hose was then directed into the house and connected to a supply vent opening. I just wedged it in and sealed around it with a plastic bag, but I later realized that this was probably not the best place to put the vac hose. After sweeping a segment was complete, the heavier debris needed to be removed from the duct opening using a shop vac. The leaf blower vac just wasn't strong enough to pull it upward through these vent openings. Another issue was this restriction. It's only about 9 inches by 3 inches. The ductwork I was cleaning was 14 inches by 4 inches, so that's quite a restriction. Next time I'll attach the vac hose here under the house where there is a large opening that this insulated ducting attaches to. It's less restriction and I'd be working with gravity instead of against it. This 10-inch flexible foil ducting will be my new duct vacuum hose for now, but a 12-inch duct may have been a better choice. More on that later. Wherever the duct vac hose is installed, I need to make sure that I don't suck any debris or dust into the HVAC unit or any other heat exchangers in the system. Maybe I should have cleaned the furnace fan before attaching the duct vac to the supply side and cleaning it. Some of this dust from the furnace fan may have been drawn further into the HVAC unit of this mobile home. Not much of a return here to clean behind the filter, but you see how dirty the fan is. I'll share more of what I learn about using my new duct vacuum during a later video of this series. But for now, let me show you how I built it from a cardboard box and a blower. This 1/3 horsepower air mover has a width of about 16 inches, so I'll need a box that's at least 6 inches larger in that dimension to allow enough room for the air to enter the blower inlets. A standard 18 by 18 by 24 inch heavy-duty moving box purchased from a local home improvement store provided plenty of space for the blower and a furnace filter. I don't know if a heavy-duty box was necessary. A normal box is probably fine. The blower was positioned in the box as shown. Since the switch is on this side, I'll attach the foil duct or a filter box to the opposite side. I think at least 3 inches of space between the blower inlet and the side of the box when closed should be enough. The location and shape of the blower outlet is marked on the inside of the box with a pen. This particular blower has a flat edge that will seal well against the inside wall of the box. So I mark and cut the opening a little smaller than my previous marks. The individual blower design will dictate the size and shape of the opening needed. Cutting the opening large enough to fit around the outside of the blower outlet should work fine also. Some blower designs may work better like that. I add a couple of wood blocks to act as door stops to prevent the box flaps from collapsing in under the vacuum. I just used tape, but some glue like contact cement may have been more appropriate. Some reinforcement tape is added to these flap edges to protect them from being ripped while opening the flaps. Since I'm just going to use tape for the door latches and I don't want the cardboard to rip when I'm undoing the tape to open the doors. I tried taping a screen to the side of the box, but the tape didn't stick to the screen very well. I'll fix that in a bit. After closing this end and temporarily taping it shut, I use the foil duct to mark where the opening is needed. I then make another small circle just inside the first one. The smaller circle is my cut line. The opening for the duct vac hose is carefully cut with a utility knife. To help keep the duct centered on the opening, these little cardboard blocks are added. Spray adhesive would have been a better choice, but I'm sticking with tape. These pieces aren't necessary, but they're helpful when reattaching the vac hose. They seem to work okay. An 18-inch piece of window screen was cut from a 3-inch wide roll. The short piece was tossed aside and the 18-inch by 36-inch piece was installed like so. Folding the screen into the flaps like this holds the screen in place nicely. Would be better if the folded screen didn't partially block the opening, so I'll remember that for next time. For now, I just want to get on with testing. The sharp edges of the screen here need to be cut back or covered. I just use some tape. The screen doesn't touch the blower, and there's some room here for debris to collect. A little tape here at the outlet to help seal. Now I tape on the foil duct and it's time for a test. The blower is plugged in and switched on before closing the box. These small pieces of cardboard are used to simulate debris. The vac had no problem handling these lightweight cardboard pieces. It handled these bigger pieces pretty well also. But as the debris gets bigger and bigger, the vac begins to have trouble moving it. The heavy-duty cardboard is kind of dense, and pieces like this got stuck occasionally. But overall, I'm pretty happy with its performance. See here where the debris collects? The cord for the blower was just ran through a corner of the box. That screen was better than nothing, but the blower would get dirty pretty quickly. So I try something else. A 20-inch by 20-inch by 1-inch MERV 7 furnace filter should fit in the box after some folding. It's marked at 18 inches to fit the box and then folded like so. It's ugly but should work fine. The reinforced side of the filter goes toward the blower. It only fits in at an angle. One end will be jammed into a corner of the box while the other end will be secured with tape. I also use tape to seal around the edges where needed. After temporarily removing the blower, 3 pieces of tape are cut and prepared by twisting them each 180 degrees. Then I attach one end of each piece of tape to the edge of the filter, like this. Now I just go around to the other side and pull in the tape to position and secure the filter. Remember that the other end of this filter is being pushed into a corner of the box. So pulling the tape wedges the filter in place and helps to seal the edges. It's a small filter, so I think 3 pieces will be enough. A little more tape here and there to seal the gaps. I seal it from this side so that the vacuum from the blower will help hold the tape in place, rather than pull it off. Notice how the right-hand side of the filter, as viewed from this side, is simply wedged into that corner of the box. Seems to secure it okay. The blower is now reinstalled and the foil ducting is taped to its respective opening in preparation for the next test. I once again start with some small lightweight debris which it handles well. Some pieces of larger debris are attempted. It moves most of them okay, but the limit is reached with this piece that was folded. There just wasn't enough surface area exposed for the airstream to act on. The piece weighs a little too much for the vacuum to move for how small it is. When it's unfolded a little, the vac has no trouble moving it. I'm pleased with the airflow of this filter, but as it gets loaded up with dust and debris, I'm sure the flow rate will decrease. I can't see any difference in the flow rate between the screen and the furnace filter. Well, it holds a decent amount of debris. Both configurations kind of struggled with these heavy-duty cardboard pieces. They must be near the limit of the duct vac's capability. Before I go any further, I decide to see how the vacuum can handle a complete blockage. The box and the foil ducting had no problem holding their shape under the sudden change in vacuum. Naturally, it made the blower work a lot harder, so I'll try to avoid blockages. That relatively small furnace filter will get pretty restrictive once it's filled with dust and will need changing or cleaned. A separate filter box allows more space for a bigger filter and easier access for changing. A 20 by 25 by 1 inch furnace filter installed diagonally into a standard 18 by 18 by 24 inch moving box only provides a small gain in filter area, but changing the filter should be easier. An opening for the inlet can be cut here on this side, and an opening for the outlet can be cut over here on the other side. This chamber in front of the filter can then be piped to the ductwork in the house. The chamber on the back side of the filter can be attached to whichever blower fan I choose. The gap here between the filter and the box flaps needs addressed. I think cutting the box here at the corner from the filter to the door opening and making another fold next to the filter edge would be my solution for the hinge. Then, after cutting the excess off the box flaps, they'd probably seal okay against the side of the filter when closed. If two of these 20 by 25 inch furnace filters are folded lengthwise at 18 inches, they can then be installed in a V-shaped configuration like this. Tape would be used to help seal and hold the edges here together. Closing these box flaps keeps the other ends of the filters wedged into their corners. After cutting the opening and attaching my vac hose, the dust and debris can then be collected by either side of the V-shaped filter. Smaller furnace filters or a larger box would allow the point of this V-shaped filter to be moved in away from partially blocking the inlet duct opening. This side would be the one piped to the house ductwork. The outlet on the opposite side of the box can be piped to the blower or even attached directly to it. Here I can just line up the duct openings and tape the boxes together. The dust and debris will be drawn from the house ductwork through this foil vacuum hose to the box filter. Some of the fine dust particles will certainly get through the filter though. And for that reason, as well as the potential fire hazard that I'm about to talk about, I think this do-it-yourself duct vacuum should only be operated outdoors. Filters with a MERV rating of 8 or higher may help with the dust, but the airflow may be reduced and they might clog up faster. Any restriction to airflow in the system will cause the blower motor to work harder and get hotter than normal. Too much restriction, like a clogged filter or using too small of a vacuum hose, will overheat the motor, which can be a fire hazard, especially when it's operating inside a cardboard box. I believe piping the blower to a separate filter box might be a little better in regards to fire safety. That way the blower motor would be operating outside of any flammable cardboard box in the system. Two separate pieces of the 10-inch diameter foil ducting must be used to connect this kind of blower because of its dual inlets. The furnace filters in the box are reoriented because two outlets are needed for the blower. I would cut those outlet openings into the sides of the filter box. I cut a corner off the filters for clearance here, but it probably wasn't necessary. A little tape to help seal the edges of the filter, and it's ready. One side of the box is piped to one of the blower intakes, and the opposite side of the box is piped to the other blower inlet. Each blower inlet gets a filter of its own with this configuration, but they can be set up to share filters. I don't know if it matters either way. The inlet for the filter box would be cut in the end here. And I think a 10-inch foil duct from the inlet to the ductwork in the house would be enough, but 12 inches would probably be more appropriate. The velocity of the air moving through the 12-inch duct will be lower, which is likely to result in more debris stalling and getting stuck in the vac hose. But it could deliver a higher volume of airflow, which I assume will raise the velocity of the air moving through the ducts in the house. I believe that's more important than the speed of the airflow through the vac hose, because I'd rather debris stall and get stuck inside the vac hose than in the HVAC ductwork. Too long of a hose can negatively affect the airflow as well. The barrel I used in part 1 would make a nice pre-filter, but I need to recut the openings for the inlet and outlet. It actually did catch dirt and debris pretty well. If the leaf blower could move much more air, then more debris would have made it to the barrel. A garbage can or a large tote like this could work also. A piece of masking tape will help keep this electrical outlet clean. This leaf blower is designed to handle some debris like leaves and small sticks, but at only 400 CFM, it lacks the airflow to move the heavier debris. This inline blower could work okay. It's not designed to handle any debris though, so it'll need a filter or a screen. It has a flow rate of about 1500 CFM. The dual inlet squirrel cage blower can move the most air of the three at around 2500 CFM. Too much vacuum can damage the ductwork in the house, but this blower is not that strong. Its plastic fan blades could be broken by foreign objects entering the unit, so I think it needs at least a screen when using it for a duct vacuum. The blower wasn't designed for this task, so premature failure could be the result, maybe even a motor fire, especially if it gets restricted or dirty and overheats. But as a precaution, I won't use it next to anything flammable, and I'll keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't overheat. I'm actually really looking forward to using one of these configurations of the duct vacuum when I clean out the HVAC ductwork in the house again. But before that happens, there are some other duct cleaning tools that I need to make or acquire. Whatever this crud is that's stuck onto the floor of the duct, it'll be a challenge to remove. Probably needs a brush of some kind, hopefully just a rotary brush. This hose I used for the whip sweeper extension is too flexible, and a drain snake was unwisely attached to help push the sweeper through the duct. A stiffer hose like this polyethylene tubing may be the answer. A valve to control the air would be nice also. In part 4 of my do-it-yourself duct cleaning series, my quest to learn more about cleaning ductwork will continue as I assemble and test that whip extension hose. Thank you for watching.